Now, the views and opinions expressed during RealBlackTalk.com do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of CCTV, the Cambridge, the community, the television, and...
Good evening. I'm Erin Becker, and this is Creative Process. My guest this month is Moira Racich. She is a local artist and painter and the winner of the Mary Schein Award in Cambridge Art Association's 2015 Fall Salon. Welcome, Moira.
Thanks.
So tell us about your art. What is your first artistic memory?
My dad is an artist, and so I have a lot of memories as a child of him painting. And I have this one memory of him. Well, he was painting these antique bowling pins, and he did a painting of them. And I remember sitting on the floor next to his desk painting a smaller copy of his painting.
That's so cute.
So
you learned kind of almost in the classical way of working with like the master artist and then copying their work. And then, so do you work as a full-time artist now, and what led you to that sort of path, if you do?
I work as a designer, so those two things are sort of related, visual disciplines.
Excellent.
And I've been focusing on my art more in the last couple of years.
Cool. And you primarily paint. Do you ever dabble in any other media?
I do dabble. Sometimes I actually made this necklace.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, when I took a class.
Nice.
So that was my most recent foray into something really different from painting.
Fun. Well, let's look at some of your artwork. So I'm hoping that this is in proper chronological order. We're just going to switch to the other camera. So what are we looking at here?
So this is an older painting of mine, and it was one of the first larger paintings that I did.
Okay.
So it was actually inspired by a photograph that I took. I think it's the next image, and I can click forward or back.
Cool.
So this was the image that I worked from. This was actually an oil painting, which was one of the first paintings I did in oil. I have since switched back to primarily acrylic.
Okay.
But, so this is most of my paintings. I start with the sky and fill in the sky, and then sort of fill in everything else. So this is an example of that.
Cool. Now, why do you prefer, I'm just going to switch back for one moment, why do you currently prefer acrylic over oil? I know there are people who have very strong feelings in both camps, so as someone who's worked in both media, can you talk a little bit more about that?
So when I was little, my parents gave me a set of acrylic paints, and so I started out with acrylics, and this was just a project to experiment with oil, but pretty much before that and after that I've worked in acrylics, and I prefer them over any other medium because of the flexibility and and when I was starting out, the ability to paint over a mistake, which is a lot harder in oil.
And they dry more quickly.
Yes.
And I know some people have issues with like the toxicity of oil, so that can be challenging sometimes. All right, we're going to switch back to look at another image. So what are we looking at here?
So this is another example of me working from a photograph that I took. So I was out
this photograph
walking on the beach and just happened to notice that I really liked the way that the clouds looked and over the water. So I just snapped a quick picture with my cell phone and then took it back to the house and painted it.
Fantastic. Do you find yourself taking pictures a lot with your cell phone as sort of a way to record things as you see them, or do you usually work with like a real camera? Or
it's cell phone pictures generally. That's what I have on me. So
cool. And what is it? So the sky captured you, and you said you usually work backwards from the sky. What is it if you're walking? What usually kind of captures your attention and makes you pause?
Well, a lot of my art is silhouettes of trees, kind of like that first one. So usually it's things like that. The bright colors, like sunsets, sunrises. I think are things that most people find very memorable and striking. So I'll catch pictures of those.
Nice. Do you wake up early to make sure you catch the sunset?
I'm not usually up early. Catch more sunsets than sunrises.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I am not a morning person either, so I'm right there with you. Let's look. Okay, so this is another example of a really fabulous sunset. And this is acrylic?
It is.
Wow.
So this is a fun one because I was driving when I saw this sort of view and wasn't able to stop and take a picture. I was driving across a bridge perpendicular to that one and then driving across that bridge. So what I did instead was I came home afterward and I was so inspired I wanted to paint that. And so I painted the sky as I remembered it, and then I just went online and found 6 or 7. I mean, it's a view that everyone loves.
Yeah,
There's pictures of it all over the internet. And so I
Yeah.
pulled them all up sort of as a reference from different angles and just used them to make sure I was getting the bridge details right.
Cool. And
So
what bridge is that?
that's the Mount Hope Bridge in Rhode Island.
Oh, okay. Cool. I've never been there before. Let's look at one more. All right, we've got another tree. Now this is definitely a different color palette from some of the other ones we've looked at.
Yeah, so this one, pretty much the next few that I brought in are all not based on any particular photograph. It's more based on, I have, a lot of memories of the sky at dusk. It's like right after sunset, and there's some great blue colors. So I, like a lot of them, I paint the sky and then I fill in some details in the foreground or the background in the case of this one, the moon.
Cool.
So.
And you've also done, I know you had a piece in our new member show this summer that was more sort of celestially inspired.
Yeah, the stuff that I'm working on now, not like this one, I guess. So this one is another one where I painted the sky. I was inspired by something, some view, and then added foreground, basically, just out of my imagination.
Now, were you doing, so this is another acrylic piece? Were you doing sort of like a wash of color? Because it almost has a watercolor effect to the background.
Yeah, so it's not a wash, but it is. That's one of the things that I love about acrylic is that you can do both the big, messy stuff and tight detail work. So it's actually blended into a mostly white base.
Beautiful.
So I was keeping it wet while I was working.
Quickly.
Well, yes, while working quickly. Yeah, that's true.
And just to give the viewers an idea, how large is that piece in real life?
24 by 30 inches.
Okay, so you were working very quickly with a pretty large surface.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right, let's look at one more. How many do you have here? Oh, there's another sky.
Yeah. So yeah, this is another example of the sky is my favorite part of this one, and then just adding some foreground to give it a little depth. And then I think there's one more that's a little more abstract. But it's, again, I wasn't referencing any particular picture, but I just kind of used a bunch of memories to pull together the colors that worked.
Well, before we get to your prize-winning piece, let's talk a little bit more about that, because I think what is appealing about your work, and I know what was appealing to Ed Schein, who presented the Mary Schein Award, is the relatability of your subjects. I think for you, sometimes they're specific places, sometimes they're imagined places, but they're relatable. Like, this is a scene that many of us have seen, either, in pictures, in person, in some sort of imagined place. So kind of talk a little bit more about that, of your sort of exploration of those universal themes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that, so I paint these paintings because they remind me of memories that I've had, experiences that I've had, and for me it's a way to stay connected with nature, living in the city.
So you're not going to see that in the city.
Yeah, so I grew up in northern Michigan, and beautiful sunrises and sunsets over the water, and so that's my motivation for painting them, and I think and it really makes me happy when other people see them, because I think that emotional reaction to a sunrise or sunset is universal. So it makes me really happy when other people say, oh, that reminds me of this trip, or this one night. So,
or this place that I've visited, or cool.
So that was just like through my website.
Oh yes, well we're going to pitch that shortly. Do you want to talk a little bit about the piece that you painted for, or that you submitted for the Mary Schein Award? I don't know if we have an image of it or not.
It's on my website.
Oh, awesome. Let's just go back and find that.
Actually, if you click, that, if you just go to the main.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that'll work. So there's an example of the.
All right, and then we're just.
Oh. If you scroll down.
Sorry, folks. Technical difficulties here for a moment.
Oh, it's the second one.
But there we go. Can I zoom in on that?
And just maybe Control plus. I don't think I have a.
Well, we're just going to switch to it momentarily. So Moira's prize-winning work is this Sunset in the Hills, which is your vision of Africa. And so do you want to talk a little bit about why you were inspired to paint this painting?
Sure. So my partner taught in Africa for a summer in college, and so that's one of the primary motivations there is pictures that he took, and also it's sort of a source for unique tree silhouettes that you would not find around here or where I grew up.
Yeah.
So so that painting again started with the sky, just working with colors that I love, and then adding in details. I think I referenced a few tree pictures just to get, I don't know what kind of tree that is, but to
it looks like an African tree,
but to get the details right.
Yeah.
Oh,
fantastic. That might be an interesting project, is to you could focus on the different types of trees and have like, a tree series of like the oak and the maple and, different evergreens and stuff. I know that in Ed's statement, when he presented the award, that he talked about how this piece resonated with his many travels to Africa, and it just sort of took him back to a place that had been so, not just inspirational, but just so important in his life and his life with Mary and kind of their travels together. And they travel all over the world, and for me it's always exciting to see what he picks, because Ed was an MIT professor. He's not an artist, he's not an art dealer, but every piece that he selects is somehow deeply personal, either to him or to the life that they had together. So it was very exciting to see that he selected this one and had some very kind words to say about why he picked it. So yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what you're working on now?
Sure. So the first one on there actually is a good example of working on pictures of the sky and the night sky, constellations, galaxies, and again the motivations behind that are memories of being outside at night. Where I grew up, there's a lot less light pollution.
You can actually see the stars?
You can see the Milky Way.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I don't know that I've ever seen the Milky Way. I've lived in the Northeast my whole life in urban / suburban areas, so I've missed out on the Milky Way.
So, I mean, that was the motivation for that particular painting. Is I can, it doesn't look quite that, extreme in real life, but I have lots of memories of looking up over a fire and
looking at the stars, counting them. Are you working on more pieces in that series, or other celestial bodies?
So that's the second one that I did. There was sort of a test run of the Milky Way that didn't turn out quite as well. It's about the same size. It's a foot by a foot. And then I've sort of expanded from there. And now I'm working on a piece that's, I think it's 54 by 54 inches.
Wow, okay, that's really expanded.
So it's very big. It's a nebula. It's sort of nebulous at this point. It's still in progress, so I don't have any pictures of it, but
that's all right.
It's huge, and it's been interesting to work at that scale. I've only done one other painting that was really big enough that you can't sort of stand in the middle and reach everything.
So. What pushed you to literally quadruple the size of your surface?
So I've sort of gradually been increasing since I started painting. I started on little, 9 by 12 canvas boards, and then I started stretching my own canvas, which is something I really enjoy doing, which gave me some opportunity to try other shapes and sizes that are not as easy to get.
Nice.
And so then I got to these tree silhouettes that are all, the 24 by 30, which is big. And then,
but you can still fit it in a car.
You can, yes, you can carry it under your arm.
Yeah, you can take it on the bus.
But yeah, so I mean, the sky is like this dramatic, huge space, and it seemed appropriate to try and capture that bigger and bigger. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I will be excited to see that, and I feel like it's a much different. It's still the laying down of the background and sort of the layers of colors, but it's definitely a much different approach because you have all the little stars and it's much more detailed than the tree work. So do you think when you're done with the nebula that you'll keep on pushing in that?
I think it depends on how this one turns out.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more color, which is a different dimension to sort of struggle with. These Milky Way ones have all been basically just blue. So there's that. But yeah, it's a totally different style of painting than I have done in the past. It's blending. And it's very, very satisfying to add the stars at the end.
Yeah.
So.
Now, I have to ask you a question that I frequently find myself asking artists. And you were talking about, you'll keep doing it if it works. So to you, what does it mean when a piece of art is working? And then second, what does it mean when it's done? How do you know you're done with a piece?
Well, I think knowing whether or not it's working is fairly subjective. But I think generally I have a gut feeling of whether or not something is good or not good. But sometimes it changes. Sometimes I'll look at something long enough and I'll just really not like it and not be as excited about it as I was. And I think that hopefully represents growth as an artist, that I feel like I can do better than I did. And sometimes I'll look at something that I didn't like and decide, well, I guess it's growing on me.
Nice.
But generally I feel like I know if it turned out okay or not. And what was the other?
How do you know it's done?
Oh, yeah. It's a lot easier to know if something's done when it's a picture of a tree.
Well, that, yes.
But
with the galaxy,
Yeah, it's sometimes hard to tell. The first version of the Milky Way that I was working on, I did it and I thought it was done, and then I kind of was like, well, I went back and added more and it looked way better. And then I was like, okay, now it's done. And then I was like, well, I think it needs a little more. So I added more stars and I was like, okay, now I feel like it's done. So sometimes you don't know.
Will you go back again, do you think? Or you never know?
Yeah, I don't think I'll go back. Once I sort of sign it, I usually don't go back and add anything else. Sometimes I'll go back if I need to clean up the edges for a show or something, but...
Nice.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't work, what happens? Do you paint over it? Do you, throw it in the fire? What do you do?
I think a little bit of each. I have a sort of collection of mediocre art in the closet. And I have just, completely said, I'm starting over and painted and just gessoed over it. Sometimes it takes a couple layers. Yours
have a pretty finished color texture to them, so there's not a lot of buildup of chunkiness. So at least that makes it a little easier.
Especially if I'm still at the sky phase, it's pretty easy to texture-wise paint over it.
Cool.
It's a lot of vibrant colors to cover up. So
yeah. Well, we have a few minutes left. So usually work a little smaller. You're starting to work bigger. Do you work at home or do you work in a studio?
I work at home. And so this has been the joke about the painting I'm working on now, is that I stretched it myself. So, which means that to get it into the apartment, I just had 4 pieces of wood that, in a little bundle that I carried up. And then I built the canvas in my kitchen and stretched the canvas and have been painting on it. And so it's not clear whether it will actually fit through the door.
If it'll get back out.
Get back down the stairwell, so I might have to unstretch it.
I actually would never have thought about that. But yeah, it's sort of like the IKEA furniture approach to art making. It's like it comes in pieces, you can get it up the stairs. How does it get back out? Huh. Well, that may determine if you do other large work.
I think
perhaps.
That will definitely contribute. I
know a lot of artists that the largest size work they make is determined by the car they use to transport their work in. So like if it lays flat, like whatever the width of their trunk or back of their car is, that's the biggest artwork that they're going to make.
Seems like a smart approach.
It's very practical. It's very practical. So do you have any shows coming up that you want to share?
I mean, just the current Mary Schein Fall Salon.
Which is up through September 25th at the Catherine Schultz Gallery and University Place Gallery. Moira's work is at the Catherine Schultz Gallery at 25 Lowell Street, and the gallery's open 11 to 5, Tuesday through Saturday. Anything else you want to share? No? Any big artist hopes and dreams, goals for the next year? Anything like that?
Well, I'm hoping to become more active with the Cambridge Art Association, and there's a bunch of shows coming up that I'm planning on applying to.
Cool.
So
we have a blue show.
Yes.
Would work with a lot of the blue stuff. So very exciting. I'm going to go back to your website so that you can share it with everybody, because you should definitely check out Moira's website to learn more about her artwork. And next month we'll be back with Sarah Myers-Brent, who is the Emerge Boston Arts Festival Faye Chandler Award winner and also a member of the Cambridge Art Association. Here is Moira's website, and we'll see you next month. Thank you for watching Creative Process.